getting there where we're always surviving, we're sometimes thriving, and we are just trying our best to make it. I'm Amanda, and I'm here with my lovely co-host.
And I'm Ellie, and this podcast is produced by her campus at Loyola University, Chicago.
Today we're going to be talking about something we alluded to in our last episode when we were talking about New Year's resolutions, and that is diet culture. And before we start, we just want to make a disclaimer that some of the topics we're going to discuss may be triggering for some listeners regarding eating disorders and disordered eating, body image, and other topics along those lines. Your safety is important to us, so please take care of yourself in whatever way you need, even if that means not listening to this episode.
Yes, I second that. We won't be offended if you need to take a break from listening to us this episode. But I'm so excited to talk about this. This is a topic I've been wanting to talk about forever, well, since we mentioned it last time on the podcast, and I'm just really excited to get into it. But before we start discussing how to fight diet culture and all of the intricacies within that topic, I wanted to just take a minute to talk about what diet culture is and kind of define it for our listeners or anyone who doesn't know. And a really good definition that I found on the internet is from one of my favorite kind of influencer people. She's a registered dietitian and an intuitive eating coach. Her name is Christy Harrison. She has a great podcast and a lot of great books that I'll mention later in the episode. But her simplified definition of diet culture is that it is a system of beliefs in our society that both equates thinness to health and elevates certain ways of eating over others. There's obviously more nuances to it than that, but that's the basic premise of what diet culture is for those of you that don't know.
We'll get into the nuances.
Yeah, for sure.
Plot twist, it's everywhere. It's literally everywhere.
Spoiler alert. But anyways, I wanted to just ask you, Amanda, like, what was your kind of experience like growing up with the women in your family, and were you exposed to diet culture at like a young age?
I will say that I think my parents did a very good job raising us with like the food that they fed us and everything. It was definitely a good balance between, like getting fruits and veggies and getting protein and that kind of stuff, but also still having meals that we genuinely enjoyed. And like, we would go to McDonald's sometimes and we would go out to eat. And there wasn't really a whole lot of guilt involved in that. A couple years ago, my parents started this diet. It was called the 17-day diet. I don't know. They all have
I've actually never heard of that one before.
Yeah, I feel like they found it in like a book from a library sale. So I feel like it's one of the it's niche.
Okay.
But ever since then, I will say there's definitely been like a difference in our like relationship with food.
Yeah.
I do appreciate, like, they never made us as kids, like, do the diet with them.
Yeah, I know that is common, like, for some people, and that can lead to problems later in life. People that grow up being put on diets.
Mm-hmm.
It's so sad.
Yeah. I do also want to point out that it's not just women. While, like, it is definitely more prevalent in women. Like, I know that my dad sometimes will say things that's like, oh, like, do I look like I eat healthy and stuff? And it's like, what does it matter?
Yeah, just kind of remarks like that are steeped in diet culture, but that generation kind of doesn't know it. Like, I think my parents are similar. Like, my mom has done Weight Watchers and that kind of thing, and she's been on and off diets in the past, but that was just the cultural norm. Like, she didn't know any better.
I definitely don't fault them at all for that.
For sure, yeah. And my dad has said that he's, like, no carb for years and has, like, these different food rules, and they just have their, like, specific things, and I wouldn't necessarily say that they feel a lot of guilt if they break their food rules. But I know for some people that's the case. And I think that's when diet culture really starts to get in the way of like living your life and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah. What was your experience like in college then? Did anything change as far as like seeing diet culture or being exposed to it?
I think it's tricky in college because it's difficult to maintain a healthy lifestyle, I think, in college when you're restricted to the dining halls and stuff. And so I think I just kind of fell victim to like the thinking that eating less was better and that kind of thing because the options available to me weren't always the healthiest.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of it was kind of on my own, but then also remembering the rules of the diet that my parents went on. And after my freshman year, I did in fact gain the freshman 15, which we'll talk about that later, but that whole concept is just the worst.
It's absolutely the worst, yeah.
But then that's the summer after my freshman year, I did end up doing the diet that my parents did because I felt like I needed to, and that it was the only way that I could get back to what I was.
The body that you once had. Right.
Exactly. I think in the past couple of years, though, especially living on my own and cooking for myself, is I've really just been able to enjoy food a lot more than I had before.
Think the process of making it becomes way more enjoyable.
Oh, absolutely.
Just being able to feed yourself. I had such an issue with the dining halls as well. Yeah, it's really difficult in college.
Did you want to talk a little bit more about your experiences growing up in college?
I had, such a different experience growing up. My parents weren't ever big on cooking. They do time and time again. My dad loves to grill, and my mom will cook, but she always says that she hates being in the kitchen and that kind of thing. So growing up, I was a really picky eater, and I was vegetarian for a while because I really loved animals, but I never cooked for myself. So I was basically just eating, mac and cheese and, carbs and, nothing that was really nourishing me or giving me energy,
right?
Which was difficult. And then I grew up dancing so much that I would have to go from practice to practice, and I never had time to really sit down and eat a full meal. So I would just be getting any kind of food that I can, Subway. My mom would bring me in between dance practices, Noodles and Company, literally anything. So I ate out quite a lot, and I didn't have any, I don't know, food rules or restrictions because I didn't ever really think about what my body looked like growing up. I kind of was immune to it until middle school and high school. And that's when things you start to become self-conscious.
Yes.
And you see that other people are dieting and you're okay. And I remember my senior year of high school, I stopped dancing as much as I did, and going from exercising 20 hours a week to nothing was such a hard step for me. I was what am I doing now? You know, and I suddenly had all of these fears that I was gonna gain weight, and I was gonna my body was gonna change, and I just didn't know what to do. And my best friend at the time, she went to a gym near us, and I signed up to go to the gym with her, and we would go every day after school, and it became a fun thing for us to do. But within that, we kind of both developed very disordered eating habits together, and disordered gym going habits.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a thing.
And they go hand in hand for sure. One kind of fuels the other. So that was my introduction to disordered eating, and I did dance team for a little bit, and so I was dancing at the same time I was going to the gym, and I remember that summer going into college, I had the biggest fear of getting the freshman 15 because everyone makes that everyone fear mongers about that.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're oh, that's the worst thing that can happen to you, and they just talk about it like it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, sometimes you need to gain weight as you grow older because your body just needs that.
Yeah.
You need extra calories. That's okay.
Your freshman in high school body is not sustainable for your
not.
entire life.
Your body shouldn't always look like that. So anyways, I was so scared of that. At this point, I definitely had food rules. I had my own diet going, and I feel it was so hard for me to stick to what diet I had made for myself with eating in the dining hall because the food is just kind of really crappy at Loyola. No offense to Loyola staff.
Sorry. There are some good things sometimes.
Yeah,
but
sometimes. It's usually
once in a blue moon.
Yeah, for sure. So I had just the hardest time, and freshman year I had a really hard time making friends, and just finding a group of people. So I think first of all, just going to college, having this huge life change, feeling really isolated and alone, having all of these food rules going into it, and just so much going on at once, really was so hard for me, and it caused me to develop even more disordered eating habits. And I just remember it being such a hard year. And at the end of the year, my parents had noticed I had lost a significant amount of weight, and they were worried, and so were my friends, and I was nothing's wrong, whatever. But eventually I came clean to my mom, and I was I think I have a problem. And she was I think you do too. So we eventually went to a dietitian and a therapist. I had been seeing a therapist for a while, but I stopped seeing one my freshman year because they didn't really have them on college campuses. I think that was also an issue because sometimes you just need therapy. But yeah, so that summer is when I was diagnosed with anorexia, and my whole kind of world flipped over. I realized I had to take this seriously and actually recover to be able to go back to school my second year.
Mm-hmm.
Because my parents were genuinely so worried. They were like, we can't have you going back to school if this is going to happen again, you know,
Right.
because it was a health issue at this point. So that summer I went into like a month-long treatment program, and it was like a partial program. Like I would go there every day and do my thing and like come back. So that was like my big intro to recovery, and ever since I've just been like on the upward path of recovery. Like we have our highs and lows, but
Right.
yeah, just recovering from the eating disorder that took over my freshman year. It was really
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
But now we're getting back on track, and like I'm just so passionate about fighting against diet culture now because I see how much it took away from me during that time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I
Yeah.
feel for a lot of people that freshman year is a time of like growth and change, and they have so much fun at college, and it was quite the opposite for me. So yeah, that was a lot, but full disclosure on my
Yeah.
experience.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of
and I'm
course.
also very impressed that you were able to like recognize yourself that it was a problem.
Yeah.
Like that, I think that takes a lot of like of knowing yourself and a lot of strength to be able to like come to terms with that.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. And I have even more so since like being in recovery. Like you don't really realize like how much of the eating disorder takes up your life until your brain is actually fueled enough to think straight.
Mhm.
You know, and that's like half of getting better, I
Yeah.
think. For sure. But anyways, getting back to like where we see diet culture, I have seen it so much on college campuses because of my experience, and now I'm so passionate about like fighting it on college campuses specifically. But where else do you think it's like most prominent?
I definitely think we kind of hinted at this in our last episode again with the New Year's resolutions, but just like commercials for all these different diet services like Weight
Yes.
Watchers and all this stuff that just shows people how much happier they are after they lose weight. And like if it's a genuine health like problem,
Yeah.
then like that can be valid, but it's just it really validates like bad feelings in other people that they think they need to lose weight in order to be happy. And
Exactly.
I think that's just incredibly problematic.
It is incredibly problematic. And also, I do think, you know, like, I go back and forth because I think there can be maybe like health benefits to losing weight, but a lot of times, like, doctors prescribe weight loss like for unrelated health afflictions,
Mhm.
and they think that's like a cure-all for everything.
Yeah,
But I
right.
definitely don't think it is. And like there's something to be said for like eating your vegetables. Yes, like definitely want to do that, but your body like knows what it needs. And
Right.
if you were to just like listen to it rather than following a diet, like it's going to want vegetables at
Right.
some point. So you're going to
Exactly.
get them in.
That's exactly.
Like we don't have to be stressing so much about it.
I've literally found that my body craves vegetables. I like
Yeah.
never thought that, you know, you're so used to craving the sweets and stuff, especially if you are restricting those things.
Mhm.
But like literally your body craves healthy food. Like it does.
Literally. And I know because like after a weekend of like going out to eat and like having pizza and like a bunch of different things on Monday, I'm like, I really want a salad.
Yeah.
Like that sounds good.
Yeah. Sometimes
Yeah.
I am browsing Pinterest and like the best looking salad will show up and I'm like, oh my God, I need that
Yes.
right now.
Yes. So that just goes to show, like, your body really knows what it needs. It knows what it's doing. And half of the reason that, like, we crave sweets and we crave these things so much, like fast food and whatnot, it's because, like, we are in a scarcity mindset. Like, if you tell your mind, like, you can't have this, this is bad, you're not allowed to, like, eat it, it wants it more.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And when you're on a diet, what happens to your hormones is just crazy. Like our bodies experience dieting as a stressor, and that's because when you're going on a diet, you're usually cutting back on calories, cutting back on food, and your body thinks, "Oh crap, we're in a famine. We don't have
Yeah.
access to food."
I was gonna say
Yeah.
your body thinks it needs to hold on to whatever you're putting into
Yes. So your
it.
body like stores that extra food in case it's going to run out because it doesn't know the difference between you intentionally restricting and literally there being a lack of food.
Mhm.
So like I always think of it in like this example of like you hear people losing a ton of weight at first when they start their diet and then they can't lose like quote those last 5 pounds.
Mhm.
That's because your body wants to hang on to that fat and like that extra, you know, food because it's scared it's not going to get it again.
Yeah.
So that's literally your body fighting to protect you. It's not a bad thing, just so you know. But then again, diet culture makes people believe that that is a personal failure and that they're at fault
Yes.
for not being able to maintain
Oh
the
my
diet.
God, yes.
You know, it's the diet that's failing them, for real.
I also want to point out that like quote those last 5 pounds
Mm-hmm.
is also like the pizza nights that you have with your friends
Exactly.
and like the
Snaps.
wine nights and the ice cream
Yeah,
and all
like,
that. Like,
it's your life.
Right.
Those are the moments, like, you're not going to look back in 50 years and be like, oh, I shouldn't have had ice cream that night. I really needed to lose those 5 pounds.
Right.
You're going to remember the memories of you and your friends, your family, or whoever, like, coming together to share a meal or have fun and bond over food. Like, that's what it comes down to, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I also think what else dieting does to your body that's detrimental, in my opinion. It's like it slows down your caloric intake, like we talked about. Like when you have like a lack of calories, it's slowing down your metabolism to be able to hang on to that. And then also your hormones get absolutely messed up because of that. And like it can take so long to recover from these things. Like after going through treatment and stuff, it took me like months just to be able to have my body feel okay again. And it messes up your digestion so much as well.
Yeah, I've read a lot about different cases of girls with eating disorders that like they stop having their period.
Yes, that happened to me. I think it's called hypothalamic amenorrhea. Yeah, that's like the medical term.
I'm impressed that you remembered that. Wow.
Yes, but that's a serious issue because if your body doesn't have enough in it, like enough energy to produce a period, it doesn't have enough to do like basic functions.
Right.
You know, so then you know like something's getting messed up. More evidence of how just diet culture takes things away from your life. I wrote a paper about this last semester, and I also did a speech on diet culture and why people should stop dieting, so that's why I bring all of this up. But there was an experiment done around the time of World War II, and it's called the Minnesota Starvation Experiment, which is so interesting because I'm from Minnesota. But during the time, a nutrition researcher, his name was Ansel Keys, wanted to understand like the effects of food rationing and semi-starvation so that they could contribute to the war effort. So I think it was a test group of 36 men who also wanted to help with the war, were put on a diet starting at about, I don't remember the calorie amount, and I don't want to be triggering, so I'm not going to include that. But basically after, I think, like a few weeks, their amount of calories was cut in half. So they were essentially in a semi-starved state for 6 months. And I do remember reading that the calorie amount is way more than is prescribed for diets nowadays.
Oh,
so yeah.
Incredible.
But what they found out in the experiment was that when the men were in a semi-starved state, they became so obsessed with food. Like, one of them wrote an entire cookbook during the time of the study. Some of them stole food and binged it. Others, reported episodes of bulimia. And some men even exercised so that they could specifically get more food rations. And the research reported that their mood went from, like, normal to being just apathetic, irritable, depressed, like all of the bad feelings you could have.
Yeah.
And it's just because like their food was taken away. Like when you don't have food, your mind is going to make you think about food 100 times more so that you're more likely to go get some.
Right, exactly.
So if you're dieting, think about like how you crave things more or you just want to eat more, and then you think, why am I so obsessed with food? I always want to eat. Your body is telling you to do that. Your body also releases a hormone called ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, and that's increased a lot when you start dieting because your body's like, please give me my food back.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to bring up that study because I thought it was a really interesting example, and it's also from a while ago, so we can see that like the effects still hold true. Also, it was done on men, which I thought was really interesting.
That reminds me, too, actually, that it was, like, you said during World War II. I have a friend right now who is in the Army.
Oh, no way.
She was going to basic training over the summer. And they have, like, a certain weight that they have to be, depending on your gender and your height. There's a certain weight that you have to be in order to enlist and perform your duties properly.
Interesting.
And so that just like, first of all, that shows like how subscribed like society is to diet culture.
Absolutely.
Like it's literally ingrained systematically.
Oh, for sure.
But she was saying like it's a ridiculous amount, like a ridiculously low amount of weight that she has to reach in order to enlist. And it's like, I know she was very frustrated because she was performing all of the like physical tasks that you have to do. Like she was running the 2 miles and the time limit, and she was outperforming some of the guys even. But she was not the weight that they wanted her to be.
See, that's where I'm like, there's such a disconnect with diet culture because it equates thinness to health. And for women specifically, I think that having more weight on your body can mean you're healthier a lot of times.
Yeah.
Like having that body fat percentage, which is usually higher than that of males, is a good thing for women because we have a whole entire reproductive system that we have to protect and maintain.
Mm-hmm.
So we need more food a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And like, I know just personally, I'm way healthier than I was when I was my thinnest.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like, why does diet culture do that?
and like the more that you have, the more weight that you have, the more that you can, like, the stronger you can be. You can lift that amount of weight and you can do all this kind of stuff, these different things with it. And it's just like that, like, your physical performance, especially in the case of the army, like that to me should be far more important than how much you weigh.
For sure, because that's just a number on a scale. What is that for all of our listeners, that does not define you at all. Like, it's simply a number, and it can be ignored for good measure.
Yes.
But you did bring up that diet culture is systemic, and I wanted to touch on that a little bit because genuinely what diet culture does to fat people is like villainizes them and discriminates against them at an institutional level.
Yes.
Like the way that we don't have seating for fat people.
Oh my gosh,
the way that if you're a fat person and you get on an airplane, you might not be able to fit in the seat.
Have you read Hunger by Roxane Gay?
I have not, but now I want to.
Oh, I listened to it on audiobook actually over the summer, and it was incredible. I loved it. But she talked about that, and I was like, I can't believe I've literally never thought about that.
Yeah.
Like, shame on me, but also shame on the world.
That's like thin privilege though, is like being able to walk into a store and find clothes that fit you.
Right.
Or I don't know, like you can discriminate in the workforce as well. Like if you're a fat person, and if we all think about like what we think of fat people when we see them, we assume that they're lazy, they eat too much, like all of these really terrible things without even knowing them.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized like I have some deep internalized fat phobia that I need to check.
Oh, me too. You know? Me too. I think what brought it to light for me was Lizzo, honestly.
Yes, Lizzo.
Because she's always posting about like how she eats healthy and she exercises regularly. And like I've never seen her live, unfortunately, but I have seen clips of her performances.
Yeah, and she's fantastic.
She's dancing, she's singing, she's beatboxing on the flute.
Yeah.
And like isn't out of breath. Like she is absolutely astonishing to me.
Yes, you can be healthy and physically fit and still fat.
Yeah, I was gonna say clearly she is in good shape. Like, but she's still fat, and so it's like that really brought it to light to me that like first of all how people discriminate against fat people, and second of all how thinness does not equal health.
For sure, and like that's why I understand. The concept of skinny shaming recently got brought to my attention. I was listening to this podcast today. It's by Gemma Stiles, my favorite person's sister.
Happy birthday, Harry.
Happy birthday, Harry. And she had on her podcast a really fat positive, plus size black model. I'm forgetting her name, but I will definitely find it somewhere in our show notes. But basically she was talking about how skinny shaming is a thing, and like I understand that people experience that, and like I would never want to invalidate people's experience.
Right.
But you're not discriminated against at an institutional level, so it's not the same as fat shaming at all. And also, you still meet the thin ideal and the beauty standards of this country, so it is just different. Like, it's not quite the same as what fat people experience. It's just not. And yeah, I love that we talked about thin privilege because that's something that's been a hard concept for me to grasp because I deal with all these body image issues and I don't necessarily see myself as thin all the time. But yet I have to understand that I hold thin privilege simply because I can go about living my life and not be discriminated against by how I look or how much I weigh. You know?
Right.
Yeah, it's a concept that I don't think enough people know about. But it's the same as like having white privilege or financial privilege, you know?
Exactly.
For sure.
It's those kind of things that when you are in that position, you don't realize it. And like, it's bad, but like, that's just how it is. Like, it has to be brought to light to you somehow. Otherwise you won't like be able to recognize it yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
I also think that, another one of those like systemic things is just clothing sizes in general.
Yes.
Like,
I don't understand why they're always different.
I know.
They suck so bad. I can't even explain my hatred towards women's clothing sizes. And we were talking about this earlier today, but you brought up how, like, men's clothing sizes, like, for the pants, it's like, okay, you have this length of inseam and this length of the waist. And that's the same at every store.
Yes.
But for a woman, it's like size 25 waist might be a size 30 at another store waist. And it's like, how did the inches get different?
Right.
I don't understand.
I remember my senior year, I was shopping for homecoming dresses, and I was at Macy's. So, like, within the same store, I tried on one dress that was a 3, zipped up perfectly, tried on another dress that was a 13, couldn't even put it on.
That's so wild to me.
Excuse
But I've had experiences like that, too, and I'm like, what's going on? Or it's like a pair of jeans at the same store, but they're like a slightly different style of jeans.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm not the same size, I see. Yeah, it's really difficult. But for anyone that does struggle with, like, we'll talk more about kind of our ways to fight back against diet culture later in the episode, or in part 2 of our episode, if we still do that. But for anyone that does struggle with that, it can really help just to either ignore the size, grab a couple sizes before you go into the dressing room, and then when you get home, like, with the size that you like, just cut the tags out. You don't need the size.
That's so genius.
Yeah. And grab, like, multiple sizes when you go into the dressing room.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, try on the biggest one first, and then work your way down, not the opposite.
That's so
Something
smart.
I learned in therapy.
That's literally so smart.
Yeah.
I know I've definitely, like, felt discouraged if I went into the dressing room and something was too small.
And then you have to go out and get a different size, and you do that, like, walk to get it, and you're like, oh my god.
Sometimes I, like, will just put the piece of clothing back because I refuse to go up
Try
a
it on
size.
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, I don't even want it anymore.
Yeah.
I feel that. And it sucks because I've always, like, considered fashion to be a big part of my identity. I love to express myself through what I wear. And for a while, like, trying on clothes was so triggering. I was like, I can't do this, and I don't know, like, how to get back to that part of myself, you know? And I don't think that anyone should have to, like, silence a part of themselves that they really, like, resonate with, like, their self-expression through fashion, just because there aren't sizes that are made for them. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And why do plus sizes start at size 12? That seems like that's actually, like, an average size for women.
It really is.
Like,
I didn't realize that at first, but I was watching a TikTok actually. Brittany Lancaster.
I love her. I just listened to her podcast today.
I love her. But yeah, she was the one who I first saw it through, and it was like 12 is like the incredibly average size for women, which I knew, but I didn't realize that plus sizes start at 12.
I know, it's crazy.
That's insane.
I'm really happy more brands are becoming size inclusive nowadays.
Yes.
But there still is a lot of work to go, for sure. And it's almost, I don't know, hard to say, like, average size, because most women, yes, are that size, but there's so much body diversity.
Right,
just
you can carry your weight in different places.
Like, people say, oh, you have a pear shape, an apple shape. Like, we all got different shapes.
Yeah.
They're so different. And, like, that's okay. It's supposed to be like that. If we all look the same, like, that would be boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, I think people always think that if you work out and eat, quote, healthy, that you'll be able to look any size you want. But so much more goes into health than just what you eat and how much you work out. If we all ate the same and worked out the same amount, we would still look different.
We would still look different.
Because there's different genetic makeup in people.
Yeah. There's this one account that I follow. It's I don't remember her name, but her Instagram handle is Healthy is the New Skinny.
I love
which
that.
I love. But she, like, posted on Instagram one of her tweets that said, like, if you are eating healthy and you're exercising and you're still, like, quote, not losing weight, like, maybe you're at your body's ideal weight. Like, your body's ideal weight is most likely not what your mind's ideal weight is.
Yeah, that's so true.
And so if you are eating healthy and you are exercising a fairly regular amount, like, you are doing just fine.
Oh my gosh, love that. And exercising specifically not for weight loss, but just to move your body so that it feels
just to feel good.
Like, joyful movement is what my therapist keeps telling me. But another thing I learned from her that kind of goes along with this is, like, your body does have a set point. Your body has a weight that it's most comfortable at, and yeah, that's probably different than what your mind perceives it to be. because a lot of times people will lose some weight and they're able to maintain like a lower body weight, but they find themselves kind of bumping back up to that higher weight, or like in times where they're not controlling what they eat as much, like they just put on some weight. And my therapist has always been like, if that happens, then there's a chance your body needed that.
Yeah.
Your body wants to be at that weight. It wouldn't just go up for no reason.
Right, exactly. And that was one of the other things that this account that I mentioned, Healthy is the New Skinny, also kind of emphasized, because she has started like weight training a lot because she wants to like gain muscle and be stronger, and she did this like in-depth like analysis of like her body weight and also her muscle mass and her like lean mass or whatever, I don't know exactly. But like between the year, like she had gotten so much stronger and put on so much muscle mass and just like felt better and also gained weight. Like that is what happens sometimes. If like, I think a lot of people don't realize that if your goal is to like get stronger,
then you'll have to gain weight.
Yeah, you won't necessarily lose weight, like, too. Like, that's not always a simultaneous goal that you can have as well.
For sure. Also, can we talk about how, like, you might weigh something different in the morning than you do at night?
Oh, my gosh.
Like, your body's not supposed to stay exactly the same within a day.
Or, like, after a good poop.
Like you drop a pound. It just happens. No, but seriously, and, like, people always talk about, oh, like, I'm going to lose my morning skinny as soon as I have a cup of water. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to lose your morning skinny. There's no food in your stomach, and you need food to survive. Like, we romanticize, like, these skinny moments or, like, moments where we feel thin, and it's just so toxic.
Yes. You know? That was another thing. One of the things from the diet that my parents went on, actually, was that you were supposed to weigh yourself every morning to be able to track, like, how much of a difference it made. And my mom was like, oh, yeah, you can see, like, between yesterday and today, like, I went down a pound. I'm like, okay, I went down 5 pounds, like, between last night and this morning. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know what that's supposed to prove, but okay. Another thing with that is, like, I don't know, the scale is toxic in and of itself, but using it to say, like, oh, I lost, this is no shade to your mom, she's doing her best life, she's living her best life, but, like, saying, oh, I lost this many pounds, or, like, really flaunting your weight loss, it's good. I want to be able to congratulate people that do that, because I know a lot of the times they put in the effort, but in our society, we treat losing weight as, like, the most amazing thing someone could do.
Right.
And it's really not. I lost my train of thought a little bit, but
I really have a problem with before and after pictures, especially.
Oh my gosh, I could go on for days.
And that's another thing where it's like, I want to celebrate people if this is like something that they've accomplished and something that they're proud of, and if it was like in a healthy way, but you don't always know. And sometimes it's like,
you don't want to reinforce behavior that's actually toxic.
Right, exactly. I don't want to say, oh, congratulations for losing 10 pounds if this person was insanely depressed the entire time, you know?
Well, I literally could not resonate with that more. I mean, when I was really in my eating disorder, I clearly had lost weight, and people would always, like, ask me, like, what's your secret? They would make comments. And
like, oh, you look so good.
Yeah. And that was absolutely glorifying and just reinforcing my disorder.
Right.
And I felt even more alone, and like I had to maintain the body that I was at, because now people started to notice. People were praising me for how I looked, even though it was the most unhealthy thing I could be doing.
Right, exactly.
You know, so you never know what's going on behind closed doors, and you don't want to, like, praise that behavior, because that could really be triggering to someone. Yeah.
A lot of times I will just say something like, oh, I'm glad you feel good about it. Or like,
that's a good way of putting it, for sure.
Even, although maybe they're saying they feel good about it, but they don't necessarily feel good about it. I don't know.
I think some people really lose the ability to stay in touch with how they feel.
Yeah.
I think some people go on a prescribed diet and they hold themselves to a strict regimen, and they think that that's the answer, and that's, quote, making them feel good. But I don't think it is a lot of the times. Also, like, your body might feel different, but how good does your mind feel? Are you always thinking about food? Are you constantly waiting for your next meal? Or, like, things just get really cluttered up there when you aren't properly nourished. I remembered my train of thought that I was going to talk about with, like, losing weight and stuff. Like, there's this idea that, like, if you can lose weight and keep it off and keep on a diet or stick to it, that you have willpower.
Oh my gosh,
and I absolutely hate it.
Yes.
like, your body is actively fighting against you dieting, so, like, that's not, like, a testament to your lack of willpower just because you want to eat a cheeseburger.
Yes.
Like, people think that is the worst thing you could do, like, break your diet, and, like, or if someone is really rigid on their diet, then they're amazing because they have willpower.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate that word now.
I know. I felt that definitely too, and it's like a personal thing more than other people, but I remember my sister one time was talking about how every day for breakfast she has a hard-boiled egg and a clementine. And I like really like felt that I was failing because I was having more food than that. Because I had a bowl of oatmeal for breakfast. I was like, "Oh, I have failed. Like I don't have that power," and that is a really bad way
it makes
to be
you feel
thinking about
so
myself.
crappy too.
Yeah,
you're like, wow, I'm the worst person because I can't do this thing.
Yeah, and like me and my sister are different people. Like
exactly.
me, like a hard-boiled egg and a clementine like fills her up, and that's good for her.
Right, but people need different amounts of food.
Right, exactly.
It's okay. No, and I think there's absolutely a problem with comparing too. I mean, I do it all the time with like my roommates or like my family. I like will think about, oh my god, am I eating more food than them? Should I not be doing that? Like, I just have to think about, what does my body want right now? You know, it doesn't serve me at all to be comparing my plate to other people's.
Right.
Because everyone's needs are different.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's difficult to overcome all of these things, and we've talked a lot about like what the widely accepted diet culture practices are. But another one that I absolutely hate is the trend of intermittent fasting. Like, can we just touch on how that is just glorifying eating disorders for like 1 second?
Yeah, I can't believe that has become as accepted as it is. Like, when I was first hearing about it, I was like, what's the point? Like,
I know.
I truly, it's one of those things that I just truly do not understand at all.
Yeah, and I don't even fully understand, like, what the regimen is for doing that. Like, all I understand is that, you know, you go, like, long periods without eating or having, like, water and that kind of thing. But where I really get lost is, like, what are the benefits? Like, how does that make anyone feel good?
Right.
I don't understand. Like, if that's your thing, like, more power to you. I'm not trying to hate on anyone. But I don't really get it.
Like, I just don't understand how you could, like, justify being hungry after 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And then being like, no, it's after 8 p.m. Like
the
God forbid I have a granola bar right now, you know, like
a granola bar. Our bodies aren't robots though. Like, our bodies want food when they want food. They don't understand it's after 8 p.m. and you're dieting, you know? And, like,
time is made up anyway.
Time is literally fake. But, like, also, I would also harp on myself all the time being like, oh my god, I'm so hungry today. Like, I want this extra food. And I'd be like, that seems like too much for me to have in a day, more than I usually have.
Yeah.
And I was telling my therapist about this, and she was like, you're not a robot. Like, you need, like, more food some days than others. And, like, that's just okay.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. I've definitely noticed a lot of, like, trying to justify hunger. Yeah. And being like, oh, like, why am I so hungry today? Well, I mean, I did have a small breakfast, and, like, I haven't eaten in, like, 3 or 4 hours. Yeah. So, but it's like, that's great, but also, like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you had a giant meal an hour ago, and now you're hungry. Like, that's fine.
Have you ever, like, done that? I know I do this with, like, exercise as well. Like, in the past, I'll be like, oh my god, I worked out for X amount of time today, so I deserve to have X amount of food.
That must be why I'm so hungry. Or
yeah. Or you're
I
like,
worked out, so it's fine. Like,
Or you'll be like, oh, I had, like, a workout today, so that means I get dessert. Yeah. Like, something like that, you know? And it's like, you don't have to exercise at all to earn your food.
Yes.
Food is an unconditional thing that you need.
Yes. I've tried to, like, say this to so many different people in my life. Like, you simply do not earn food. Like, you just...
Simply, no.
You just eat when you're hungry. Like, I don't know what else to tell you.
Literally, I, like, just PSA to literally everyone, you have unconditional permission to eat food at any point, whatever you want. Who's going to stop you?
Yeah, really. Who is going to stop you?
There is so much more to life than focusing on what you're eating at every second or how many calories are in a cookie. I just want to say.
Yes.
Think about, like, how much it takes away from your life. Like, I just know, like, when I was so focused on food and what I was eating and at what times I was eating, like, I wasn't enjoying anything else.
Yeah.
You know, it takes away so much pleasure.
Right.
And that's the thing is food can be for pleasure too. Like we consider food as fuel, which it is, but there is an aspect of food that is for fun and for enjoyment.
Right.
Like why else would there be birthday cake?
Exactly.
I love birthday cake. Like,
exactly.
And are you going to skip out on birthday cake just to stick to your stupid keto diet? Like, I really hope not.
Like, no.
Yeah.
I think that's a good, like, conversation to have with yourself, too, and it's a good way. There are certain questions when I get in that mindset that I have to, like, take a step back and
I love this.
myself,
I can't wait to hear the questions.
Like, really, how sustainable is this, like, thinking? And, like, if you are, sometimes I get in the habit of, like, oh, I have to eat perfectly today because, like, I'm going out to dinner tomorrow or whatever. Yes. And it's like, how sustainable is that thinking? Like, do I want to be doing this my entire life? Do I want to be making myself work out when I don't feel like it? Do I want to be forcing healthy foods into me when I don't crave them? Like, do I want to be doing that my entire life just so that I can maintain a certain look or a certain weight? Like, no, absolutely not. At what point does it stop? Like,
yeah, and it's also such a slippery slope.
It is.
Like, you can start off with one thought, and then the more that you give into those thoughts, it can develop into eating disorders or disordered eating, and that's why I think diet culture is so dangerous.
Yeah, for sure.
And what was I gonna say? I think it also has to do with the slippery slope. Like I said, I'm losing my train of thought again because there's just so much coming to my mind.
Oh my gosh, we have so many feelings about this.
We have clearly so many feelings. We've never been like this hyped up for an episode. Like before this, we were talking about it today too. Has so many ideas. But I'll talk about it when it comes back to me. I can't remember what I was gonna say. But yes, there is such a fine line between being healthy and being obsessive.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to because like you said, I want to be able to praise people for health and trying to pursue health, but weight loss is not the only way to do that.
Right, exactly.
You know, I think we talked about this. This kind of relates to what we talked about in our New Year's resolution podcast. Like, try adding things into your life rather than restricting or taking them out.
Yes.
Like, say, like, oh my God, I'll eat a vegetable this week. That's great. Or, like, I will get X amount of sleep. Sleep is important. Mental health is important.
Is so
Stress
important.
Levels, that all contributes so much more to your health than what you eat.
Yeah.
I think what else I was going to say is our bodies like diversity with workouts, with food. They like that. And your body is so smart that, like, eating a cookie, like, one day out of the week is gonna change absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
In the long run, like, literally nothing. Like, or if you have ice cream, like, maybe your stomach will hurt a little bit after if you eat a whole pint, but, like, you're gonna be fine the next day.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna gain a significant amount of weight from eating one thing.
Yes.
Like, you have to have sustained, like, more calories in order to do that.
Right. And it's the same thing that you think of, like, if you think about the people who always say that they're struggling to lose weight.
Yeah.
Like, you almost struggle to gain weight too sometimes.
For sure. Because your body, like, wants to be at the set point. Like we said, it just wants to stay there and hang out and chill.
Right. Like, one thing is not going to make you gain weight, just like one thing is not going to make you lose weight.
And I think what's even more unhealthy is, like, people go on these diets and lose a bunch of weight, but after they quit the diet because, frankly, the diet isn't sustainable, the statistic is that 95% of people gain the weight back and the diet doesn't work. And that weight cycling is what is really unhealthy and causes a lot of health problems for people. Is bouncing back and forth on the weight scale. Yeah, and it's terrible. But yet, like, the diet industry profits off of this. It's a $72 billion industry.
That's crazy to me.
And, like, think about it, though. Like, the more like unsustainable products that it gives to you, the more you have to keep buying from them and keep giving them money, and that's how they like keep profiting off of your insecurities. If no one cared, like, how thin or how pretty we looked, the beauty and diet industry wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine a world without those things?
Right?
Oh my gosh.
I know. I honestly can't because we are so, like, ingrained in it from a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
That was how I ended that very, like, profound sentence. Anyways, this is not a political podcast, but thanks for listening. But yeah, like, how sustainable is this? When does the dieting stop? Do you really want to live your whole life, like, counting every calorie? Like, I think we work so hard on prioritizing how we look and how we are perceived by others, and we don't ever think about if we're happy in those moments.
Yes, yeah. I really got into a thing, my first semester sophomore year. I have always enjoyed, I used to have a Fitbit, and I always enjoyed just seeing, like, how many steps I got and stuff. And then I downloaded the app, and I saw that you could track your calories on there, and I was intrigued, and so I started doing it, and I was like, for a really long time, I was just in a very bad place. So this was
your sophomore year,
like, sophomore year of college. So yeah, it was not. I was not where I wanted to be, and those were a few of the questions that I asked myself. Was like, do I really want to, like, be scanning the QR codes on all of these? Not QR codes.
But, like, the package labels.
Yeah. Whatever. Do I really want to be scanning everything that I eat for the rest of my life?
I, like, went through this phase with MyFitnessPal, too, which is, like, an app on your phone if you don't know what it is. And, like, it would just be like, well, how many calories are in your apple today? And I would be, like, looking things up and, like, frantically putting in the amount of calories. Like, who cares? Yeah. Like, literally, who cares? Yeah. It's so toxic.
I really don't like that, like, treadmills and a lot of, like, exercise equipment will automatically tell you how many calories you're burning.
I know.
Like, I don't want to see that. Like,
a lot of the times that's not even accurate, too. Like,
right.
Because everyone's body is different, so you all, like, burn calories at different rates. It's so stupid. I put my phone right over that thing. I'm like,
that's
goodbye.
Smart. I should do that. Because it's like, I'm not on this treadmill to burn calories. I'm on this treadmill because I enjoy moving my body this way, and I want to work at, like, getting better, having more endurance, that kind of thing. Like, I'm not worried about that, but, like, seeing it there makes me be like,
you think about it.
Oh, should I be worried about that?
You're like, oh, let me just increase the speed a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think, like, having an intention before you work out is what's important to make sure that it's not specifically for weight loss and it's not becoming toxic.
Yeah.
That's something I've really been trying to work on.
Another systemic issue of diet culture is
definitely.
Like, those are just on the machines.
They're just on the machines, just for shits, you know.
Yeah.
Just for funsies.
Just for funsies.
I know. And I think, like, this whole diet culture thing is just so reinforced by social media. Mm-hmm. Like, the amount of fitness influencers or, quote, wellness influencers, like, preach, like, what I eat in a day, or, like, here's my gym routine to lose weight, and, like, all of this stuff, and they have all of these fitness regimes that they're profiting off of now.
Right.
And all of these, like, diet plans that they profit off of. And it's crazy because they can be posting all of that stuff, and none of those things could be true in person.
Right.
Also, we don't know, like, how disordered these people are. We only know what they post on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I've caught myself so many times, like, comparing myself to them, comparing what I eat to them, how I look. And my therapist has been like, what do you really know about them? Like, maybe they're not enjoying their life.
Yeah.
You know? And you could be if you, just let yourself eat and let yourself move how you want to.
Mm-hmm. We should really compile a list of, like, the good bloggers to follow, because I feel like I've thought of so many just, like, in this episode.
Yeah. I think we could finish up the episode by talking about how to make diet culture better within your own life.
Yes.
And how to fight it, at the individual level.
Yes.
It gets a little more complicated when you're moving up the ladder into legislation and whatnot.
But there is a decent amount that you can do, I think, on a personal level. And one of those things is, like, following accounts that support, like, what you want to support.
For sure. Like, that means either body positive. Sometimes that word's a little bit nuanced, so I don't want to use that. But, like, size inclusive, anti-diet accounts on all platforms. Mm-hmm. Accounts that are posting people that don't look like you, people that do look like you, like, everything in between. And throw out the scale, delete MyFitnessPal, stop the calorie counting. That is so much easier said than done. But if you could work your way up to doing one of those things, I think it could have such a beneficial effect.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember if you mentioned this or not, but one of the bloggers that I follow, her handle is Healthful Radiance. Love her.
I haven't heard of these bloggers yet. I feel like I follow so many.
But she suggested, like, taking down the mirrors. Like, if you have a problem with, like, waking up and immediately checking yourself in the mirror, just take it down.
Oh my gosh, I cannot emphasize that enough. I've done this a lot too, like, within my own recovery, like, catching myself body checking has been a big trigger because if you do it right in the morning, that sets the tone for the rest of your day.
Right.
And you're automatically thinking, oh, I hate how I look. And then that's your thought for the rest of the day.
Right.
So waking up, before you get in the shower, don't look in the mirror. When
Yeah.
you're getting out of the shower, you turn around. You don't look in the mirror when you get dressed. Like all these little times throughout the day, you don't even think about it because
Yeah.
it's such a habit. Just not doing that. And then also having clothes that fit you.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
The thing is, clothes are made to fit you and not the other way around. So keeping clothes that are 2 sizes, like too small, is only going to make you want to fall back into those dieting behaviors in an attempt to fit them later.
And I also want to say, obviously, like, there are going to be good days and bad days of, like, how you feel about yourself. And
everyone has those, though.
Yes, it's
even
not,
the people that are the most confident.
It's not a linear progression. It's definitely, like, ups and downs. But on the bad days, there is something to be said for putting on the loosest pair of sweatpants, the biggest hoodie, and just not even thinking about, like,
Absolutely.
Not even trying to feel your body at all, or not feeling how the jeans squeeze you in this particular spot. Like, just put on the loosest clothes you have and just do your thing. Like,
yes, because wearing tight clothes can be triggering for sure. You're just more conscious of how you look in them. So I love wearing loose clothing. That's been one plus of quarantine is I can wear sweatpants every day.
Sweatpants every day.
Yes, but last but not least, like, if you still feel like this is a problem for you, you should definitely seek professional help. We're not experts. This is just something we're passionate about.
Right.
And definitely seek help from a registered dietitian, someone that's well-versed in the health at every size or HAES kind of language. You know, that's really important because those are the people that aren't going to discriminate against you. There's a lot of people within the field of, like, eating disorder recovery that just aren't that, and it can be even more triggering for some people.
Yeah.
So do your research.
I can't even imagine, like, going and seeking out help from someone who is only, like, encouraging the things that are so terrible for you.
I was so lucky with, like, my doctors and people who I came into contact with, but I've just heard, like, horror stories of people that, like, go and then, you know, like, someone that has anorexia but hasn't lost a ton of weight, like, people are going to dismiss that immediately.
Right.
And when it's a serious problem, but just because their weight, quote, like, isn't too low, they're not going to address it.
Yeah.
So that's
really terrible.
A real issue to address in the world as well. But yeah, I also wanted to just point out a couple, like, books and resources and podcasts that I like. Christy Harrison, who I mentioned before, has a book called Anti-Diet. And she just has a really great podcast called Food Psych. I listen to it all the time. She always has really cool guests on it, and just talks about intuitive eating and how to heal your relationship with food in your body. And I'm obsessed. Another great book that I like is Just Eat It by Laura Thomas. She's British and also a registered dietitian. But yeah, it's so great because, like, there's some British language in, like, her book. I'll let you borrow it because I have it over there once I'm done reading it. Yeah. But she also talks about intuitive eating and a lot of, like, the science behind, like we talked about before, like, why your body doesn't want to diet, which was so helpful to, like, hear from someone that's researched it and, like, knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will also, I just thought about this, but I'm saying it that we're going to do it anyway, so this is going to be a heads up to you. We're going to list these, like, podcasts, bloggers, books, and all that stuff in the blog post that we do for our podcast on our website.
I thought about this too.
So go look at our list, hercampus.com/LUC. It'll be there. So you can have those resources readily available for you.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to share this episode on our Instagram as well if you need help getting to our website or anything. Yeah, this was such a great conversation. I can't believe we talked for this long, but I feel, like, more empowered now.
Yes, I definitely do. Clearly, this is something we're very passionate about.
Yeah.
And I think the time speaks to that. And I think it's well-earned time. It's an important conversation to have.
Definitely. Yeah, and just, like, thank you for listening, and thank you, Amanda, for letting me be vulnerable today. I needed this.
Oh, thank you as well.
This was great. But thank you for listening. If you made it this far, we appreciate you. And I have been Ellie.
I'm Amanda.
And this has been Getting There, and we'll talk to you next time.